Welcome to this review of our course in Ethics and Values, the art of skillful practice of being human. We're each born as individual selves with our own, body, feelings, thoughts, and desires, and we're also born embedded in relationships to ourself, to others, to community, to the world, to place, and to time. And to be human is to be an embodied relational being. This becomes the raw material out of which we each must construct our character, the person that we want to be. You might say that we are individuals by default, but we only become persons by effort. We are selves by birth, but we must construct our character out of all the material conditions and events of our life. So the question becomes in this, being human, will you let your character be determined by reacting to what happens to you? Or will you become the creator of your own life, the author of your own story, right? The teller of your own tale? It comes down to whether you'll learn to live well in your own skin with all of your feelings, thoughts, and desires, whether you'll learn to live well in all of your relationships that make you the person that you are. Learning to live in your own body and in your relationships is essential, I think, for living your best possible life. Think about this. Whether you choose to be a business person, a healthcare professional, a doctor, a nurse, whether you choose to be a teacher or a tradesman or a husband or a father or a wife or a mother, you will still be a human being first and foremost. And true happiness, true fulfillment, and peace of mind won't come from being a good doctor or a good lawyer or accountant, but only by being a good human being. So as we've discussed, in class, too often we live with much anxiety and fear. Our insecurities about ourselves and our status make us present to life with guarded self-consciousness, where we're filled with self-doubt and disappointment and a sense of inadequacy. So we're too often, dissatisfied, angry, unhappy, miserable. We trap ourselves in illusions of insecurity and anxiety by how we choose to be present to life, to our bodies and our relationships. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can learn to live with joy and peace of mind, with calm self-confidence, emotional resilience, cheerfulness, and with a loving and infectious enthusiasm for life. Right? We can be gracefully present to life in our own bodies and in all of our relationships. We need to simply learn how to pay attention to our bodies, to our feelings, thoughts, and desires, to be aware of our embodiment. So let's review what we've learned this semester about graceful presence. And we'll want to begin by talking about becoming gracefully present to our bodies, to our feelings, thoughts, and desires. So this is a matter of the 7 practices of graceful presence that we talked about in class. So let's just review those 7 practices. The first practice, number 1, is to care for your body. And recall that all of our feelings, thoughts, and desires are rooted in and originate in our body. The quality of our feelings and thoughts and desires will in large part be dependent on the quality of care we give to our bodies. So we need to be intentional about how we care for our physical health. Don't neglect, but take control of your diet, what and how much you eat and drink. Take control of your exercise. Your body was meant to move, so move it. You need to exercise the body. You need to get outside regularly if you want to be in touch with your body and the incredible wisdom in your body. And sleep, right? Don't neglect sleep. Take naps. They're wonderful. Also, it's only through your body that you experience the world. As we talked about in class, our first response to any experience is a bodily one. Our body orients itself in space and holds itself ready to avoid threats or approach opportunities. So becoming self-aware of your posture and how you move, right? Carrying yourself with confidence even if you feel fear or self-doubt, will bring about a change in your mental states, and you'll become confident. Recall, as we mentioned in class, that we carry in our posture the history of all the messages we've been given our entire life about our worth and value. But you don't need to be a victim of that history. We each can choose to carry ourselves with confidence, resilience, cheerfulness, with enthusiasm. And by doing so, by changing how we carry ourselves, our posture, we can rewrite that history through graceful presence. So first practice, right? Begin to care for your body. The second practice is caring for your emotions or feelings, right? The image here is Buddha's great dart discourse, and the message, don't throw a second dart at yourself. All of our feelings or emotions are wonderful. The positive and the negative are marvelous to experience. If, instead of ignoring them or trying to resist or suppress them, we just choose to be present to them and observe them without reacting, right? Instead, breathe into them. Remember, we are these tripartite beings who seek physical safety, social acceptance, and existential purpose and control. We're often, these goals are in conflict. Our feelings can be confusing and complicated and contradictory. We often can feel at war with ourselves. Here's where intentional breathing can bring peace of mind. Remember the analogy with the kite and kite string when it comes to caring for your emotions. If the kite is uncontrollable, don't focus on the kite, but on the string that holds the kite to gain control. Similarly, if your mind is racing with chaotic emotions, don't focus on the mind, but on your breath to bring calm control back to your mental states, right? So practicing care for your emotions is a matter of learning how to breathe into your emotions. The third practice is caring for your thoughts. And here we come back to Marcus Aurelius and his emphasis on directing our inner voice. Fear and anxiety, as well as joy and happiness, do not exist in the world, but in our bodies, in our emotions, in our thoughts. Our mind turns pain and sorrow and adversity into suffering and mental anguish. Even pleasure and positive experiences get turned into fearful and anxious moments by the reactive mind. Our reactive mind of guarded self-consciousness traps us in patterns of thinking that only produce mental states of self-doubt, inadequacy, dissatisfaction, and fear. But through graceful presence, our mind can transform all of our experiences with self-confidence, resilience, cheerfulness into a joyful and enthusiastic embrace of life. Recall what Aaron Beck, a founder of cognitive therapy, said. Our thoughts determine how we see our life, just as a pair of colored glasses color how we perceive the world. Our thoughts color how we see our lives. If you have on a pair of blue-tinted sunglasses, then the world will seem to have a blue hue. But that's not coming from the world, but it's your blue-tinted sunglasses. So, right, what is the quality of your thoughts? We see the world not as it is, but as we are. Life is such a head game. The quality of your life, the quality of each moment, your sense of fulfillment in your life, the happiness in your life, even the quality of your relationships will largely be determined by whether you control your thinking or whether your thinking controls you, whether you let what happens to you determine your thoughts or whether you learn to direct your thinking regardless of the circumstances that you're in. We saw this, we do this, Marcus Aurelius teaches us, by directing our thoughts with an inner voice informed by love, empathy, and kindness. We control our thinking by controlling how we talk to ourselves, because between what happens to us and our response is the inner voice. Too often we let our inner voice or thoughts run away with us with negative words and phrases. We talk ourselves into anger, hate, envy, resentment, or discouragement, or boredom. But if we change our thinking, we can immediately improve our lives. We are what we think, or we are what we tell ourselves we are. So inform your inner voice with love and compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and care for your thoughts. The fourth practice, to care for your desires, right? Comes back to Epictetus and his fundamental rule of life, right? He teaches us to focus on what we can control, not on what we cannot. He teaches us that a major source of our unhappiness in difficult moments is we worry about and focus on things out of our control, which only makes us more miserable and feel even more out of control. In difficult moments, instead, find what you can do, and no matter how small or insignificant it seems, do it, and it will bring a sense of control into your life. Epictetus teaches us, right, to distinguish what is and what is not in our control, and to accept what is not, and find what is possible and what we can control. Remember, he gives us that helpful image. He says everything that happens to us has two handles, an obstacle handle and an opportunity handle, and we choose how to pick it up. So do we react to what is out of our control, or do we respond to what is in our control, right? So again, this fourth practice is to care for your desires. Then we come to the fifth practice, right? This is Mo Tzu, the great Chinese philosopher. It's how we treat and respond to others. And Mo Tzu teaches us, right, about universal love, or that we should esteem everyone as we wish to be esteemed. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. Do unto others as you'd want them to do to you. Or better said, treat others as you want those you love the most treated. According to Mo Tzu, if you remember, all conflict between nations, within families, between people, is caused by our failure to esteem others as we want to be esteemed. I mean, almost everything we do is done with the anxiety that others see us and might treat us. The only way to free ourselves from the anxiety about others' perception of us is to practice universal love. The only way to overcome the fear and worry you feel in the presence of others is to love them unconditionally. When you choose to always and without condition see the person or persons in front of you with love and forgiveness and treat them as you wish to be treated, you free yourself from the anxiety of how they might see and treat you, because it doesn't matter or affect you, because you've chosen to see and treat them, right, with universal love. So practice and care for action, right, this universal love. Then we come to the sixth practice, to just focus on the next 15 minutes. We easily get overwhelmed thinking of all the things we must do, but all our responsibilities, all our problems. We think having to survive another week or even a day with COVID, with the quarantine, with the social distancing, that it's impossible, we can't do it. We might think of all the final papers and final exams we have to pass before the term ends. Or maybe we get stressed out about Christmas, see all of the issues about gift giving that we have to do. We get discouraged about all the things that Christmas perhaps requires of us. And so we procrastinate and do nothing. But if we let go of concern for the month, for the week, or the day, if we let go of worrying about due dates or the future, and instead focus on the next 15 minutes, we realize it's doable. I can simply act, do something in the next 15 minutes. Effort precedes energy. Just beginning brings with it the energy and motivation to continue and persevere. So try it. For just the next 15 minutes, focus on what it is you need to do. And then we come to the seventh practice of graceful presence. Here we come back to my favorite philosopher, Socrates. Right? Socrates teaches us that we need to be ambitious in life. We need to aspire to greatness. But our ambition should be to become good persons. Our aspiration should be for the greatness of goodness. If we're ambitious for external goods like money, wealth, material possessions, status, well, if we fail to achieve them, we'll have regrets, disappointment, dissatisfaction, envy, and resentment, which harms our relationships. Even if we succeed, then we'll realize how hollow the victory, how shallow and short-lived the satisfaction, because we'll never have enough. We'll always want more. To seek instead goodness, to become an ethical human being, you can experience the satisfaction of each day just making small steps in moral growth. Of course, this requires the three great commitments that Socrates taught us as a philosopher. The commitment to intellectual honesty, right? The commitment to truth, the commitment to the humility that you know that you don't know, but you're always open and curious and questioning. A commitment to moral conscience, to goodness, right? In pursuit of wisdom and knowledge and in life overall, you refrain from harming others or yourself. You don't sacrifice people for your opinions. And then there's the commitment to self-knowledge in pursuit of living a good life. For Socrates, the only knowledge that's crucial for life, the only knowledge worth having, he thought, was self-knowledge. This is the foundation of a good life. Self-knowledge is, right? Only the person, Socrates thought, who can live well with him or herself will be able to live well with others. So again, this commitment to self-knowledge. For Buddha, I was thinking of another philosopher here. For Buddha, the whole point of this life was to take small steps in spiritual growth, to use every experience, good and bad, success and failure, as a stepping stone to moral maturity and spiritual development. So care for your life and aspire to the greatness of goodness. So those are the 7 practices of graceful presence, but we're not done there. Next, we come to the 6 relationships that make us the person that we are. And we have to talk briefly about how to be gracefully present to ourselves, to others, to community, to the world, to place and time. So let's quickly review what this means. Let's start with caring for the self. Caring for the self, right, is developing a healthy self-love, loving yourself as you are, becoming your own best friend, saying yes to your life. The challenge here in caring for the self is develop, again, genuine self-love. As Rousseau pointed out, most of us base our self-love on the approval of others. And so we develop an unhealthy type of self-love. Someone once said that here's a way to distinguish healthy from unhealthy self-love. He said healthy self-love is like singing to yourself in the shower or in your car, whereas unhealthy self-love is what it feels like to sing in front of others, right? I mean, in the shower, you think you sound great. Just singing for yourself brings great joy. I know I've given great performances, for one, in the shower or my car, even though, right, I'm not a great singer. When I sing for myself, it's a joyful, wonderful experience, and I think I have a fantastic voice. However, when I sing in front of others, I become overwhelmed with worry about how they'll judge my voice, right? So healthy self-love is developing that ability to live your life like you're singing for yourself in the shower. But how do you do that, right? And here, we have Rousseau and Aristotle and Nietzsche who helped us out. Aristotle said, or first off, Rousseau says, don't base your self-worth or self-love on the approval of others. Aristotle taught us that we should become our own best friend, which is to want the best for yourself, namely virtue, knowledge, and character strength. I like what Montaigne said in this regard. He said, I care not what I am to others, only what I am to myself. And then finally, Nietzsche said to love your life just as it is, right? Say yes to your life. Live in each moment so that you'd want nothing more than to relive your life over and over again. Let's go to the second care, caring for others. It's unconditional kindness, the radical and generosity of agapic love and forgiveness. The challenge here is we tend to practice conditional kindness. We treat others as we think they'll treat us. This only elevates and heightens our anxiety and unhappiness. Instead, we have to practice the unconditional kindness of love and forgiveness. I think of a great quote by Kierkegaard that we looked at when we were talking about care for the other. And I'll just quote this since it's so beautiful. It is a sad upside downness, Kierkegaard says, altogether too common, to talk on and on about how the object of love should be before it can be loved. The task is not to find the lovable object, but to find the object before you lovable, whether given or chosen, and to be able to continue finding this one lovable no matter how that person changes. To love is to love the person one sees. As the Apostle John reminds us, he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen, right? A wonderful notion that we should have this unconditional kindness, right, for every single human being. Let's go to care for community, right? The practice is hospitality, engaging with persuasion and shared authority. In care for community, the challenge is that we're hardwired to be status-seeking, reciprocal, or altruists, and to create, because of that, dominance hierarchies in our communities. So we tend to be coercive and manipulate others in how we get them to cooperate with us. We flatter those above us in power and authority, and we take advantage of those beneath us. The antidote is to practice hospitality, where we commit to using and cooperating with persuasive power, and making sure that in our communities, everyone, regardless of their status position, is seen as a person of equal value and irreplaceable in our affection and esteem, where we realize that each person in our communities must come to feel safe, secure, respected, and meaningfully free. We practice shared authority, so we realize that in our communities, no matter of their position, every person has the equal privilege to speak, and every person shares the equal and reciprocal obligation to listen. Then we come to care for community. The practice is stewardship, the responsible cultivation of what is entrusted to our care. The challenge here is that we have too narrow a sense of our moral community. We think only humans possess intrinsic value, and so the environment with its plants, insects, and other animals only exists to serve our needs, so they can be used up and then their interests completely disregarded. Aldo Leopold talks to us about stewardship, that we need to expand our sense of stewardship. So what is stewardship? Well, it is the cultivation of what has been entrusted to our care by ensuring the preservation of its integrity, stability, and beauty. Who or what has been entrusted to our care? Our moral community is represented by the land pyramid, the soil, water, air, plants, insects, rodents, birds, and all other animals, including humans. Why should we care for them? Why should we practice stewardship? For our own preservation and that of future generations, and because they possess inherent value in themselves. And how? Through ensuring that in all of our actions, we preserve the integrity, stability, and beauty of our physical world. So the practice of stewardship in care for the world. Then we come to caring for our place, being at home in the world, the practice of belonging through ritual making. We humans are dwellers. We need to feel at home, like we belong in the places where we live. Too often, we feel like we don't belong. We're just occupying space, but not dwelling meaningfully. We must come to feel safe, secure, respected, and meaningfully free in the apartments and homes where we live. We need to come to feel that our homes and apartments are safe harbors where we can go from to explore all of life's possibilities, and places where we can return to refresh and restore ourselves. But we've lost the ability, I think, to create places of belonging and being at home in the spaces where we live, because we've lost the importance of rituals. A ritual is a sequence of actions, words, and gestures, often in ceremony, that confers meaning on ordinary objects or events. Rituals transform sterile spaces into sacred places. Rituals bring a sense of unity, confidence, control to life that is so often chaotic. A ritual can be any activity of cleansing, commemorating, celebrating, decorating, done intentionally to create a place of belonging from which you can go out and explore the world and return to be refreshed. To care for places, the places where we live, is to rediscover the magic of ritual making. Finally, we come to the last of the relationships, our relationship to time and care for time. The practice is hope, the confident expectation in the goodness of life and in the purpose and value of your life. The challenge here is the despair, the loss of hope brought about by vain and false pursuits for material goods and status, brought about by existential boredom and death of those that we love and care about. The practice, again, is hope, finding a reason to have the confident expectation in the goodness of life and in the purpose and value of your life, realizing that in the experience of the despair of vain pursuits, boredom, and death, like Abraham Lincoln, we can hear the call of conscience and find through our suffering patience, humility, and determination to make a good life. And then Viktor Frankl, in his experience in the concentration camp, taught us, right, that you can find a reason for hope through work, love, and example. In any moment threatened by despair or loss of hope, he says, ask yourself these three questions. What can I do? Whom can I serve? Or how can I be an example, we would add, of graceful presence? In this course, right, as we think about the landscape of life, kind of wrapping everything up, right? In this landscape of life of who we are and who we can become, there is our facticity, who we are, right? What our genes, what our environment, and what random events have made us. But then there is our freedom, right? Our ability to choose what to make of who we are, our freedom to choose our future self, our character, and our presence to life. In this course, we've attempted to understand and then to cultivate graceful presence to each moment, to our bodies, to our lives, to our relationships, so that as we live each day, we can replace self-doubt with self-confidence, a sense of inadequacy with emotional resilience, dissatisfaction with cheerfulness, a timid and fearful or angry engagement with life with a loving and infectious, enthusiastic embrace of life just as it is, to replace, in a word, guarded self-consciousness with graceful presence. Don't forget also how the character exercises build our strength to do just that. Hopefully in this class we've talked about something right this semester that will help you live with joy and peace of mind. And when you liberate yourself from fear, right, through graceful presence, then you liberate others to live without fear as well. This is my wish for each one of you, that you can live, right, learn to live with graceful presence. I know you can do it. I believe in you. So start today. Thank you very much for sharing with me over the course of this semester, this course in graceful presence. Have a wonderful rest of your day.